I was going to put a slide in here about what we've been doing, and I forgot to, but I'll just tell you. So we have finished what's called the feasibility study phase, which included 2 reports, preliminary concept development. We looked at several different schemes. The school building committee picked a scheme, and so now we're working on advancing that design. We're in what's called the schematic design phase, and schematic design will go through about February, and then one of the very important tasks that we're doing in this phase is we'll be establishing the project budget based on the cost estimate of this phase, and then that project budget will be become part of the bond vote that the town will vote on in June, late June. So today we're talking about the site. I have with me here Jade Cummings, our landscape architect. She's going to share some material with you. I'm just going to give us an overview and kind of set Jane up. Not set Jane up. Set it.
Who are you setting the microphone?
I'm not setting anyone up. So these are the site elements that we are proposing. So our next community meeting is going to be about traffic. So we're going to kind of try to gloss over traffic today because we're going to revisit that next week with our traffic engineers. But we have, which we've looked at before, we have a loop road, which is surrounding a whole bunch of staff parking, and there's parent parking, parallel parking along the loop road. This area is the drop-off, and there's what we're calling an arrival court, so kind of a generous paved area, and there's also a good-sized covered outdoor area at the entrance. The bus drop-off is separate. Buses will enter from Haverhill Street and then exit through the car loop. So in terms of the site program, we have the WOW Center, which is what is currently at the Killam inside the courtyard. So there's, it's kind of an environmental education piece. So currently they have a fish pond or turtle pond, a composting area, and some planting, some gardening. Raised beds, thank you. So we're going to be recreating a similar kind of place somewhere on the campus. We have a U12 soccer field, which is strongly wished for by Jim Sullivan from the rec department. We have 3 separate playgrounds, so one for K through 2, one for 3 through 5, and one for the Rise. The Rise playground is on the Haverhill Street side, and then an outdoor dining patio. And this is an alternate that we're considering, which is that there's currently as you all know, a softball field at Killam. So we looked at the possibility of fitting in a softball field. This is the U10, so it's like the smallest size. And as you can see, it has an infield, but then the outfield is really not proper, right? Because you run into the trees in left field pretty quickly. Right field is okay because you can spill onto the soccer field. But we've heard from the softball league in town, as well as I think a couple parents, that this was a desirable element. It's something you have now, and it would be a shame to lose it. So we think it's possible to fit that in. And in this scenario, we might move the WOW over to join the playgrounds, which might be nice actually, that it might be kind of more of an integrated space that's a play space along with the playgrounds. This is news to Jade. All right, I'll let Jade share more about the site. Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Jade Cummings, landscape architect. Jenny, thank you. That was an excellent overview. So Jenny outlined the spaces, but what I would say is if we just step back for a moment and look at the project big picture, I just want to say from our perspective, we're super excited about the way this site is laying out. Some schools we work on, it's either, oh, there's so much ledge, or the topography, or the stormwater management, it's circulation's tricky. And this site is, it just feels good. And it's been a pleasure working with Jenny and her team, really understanding how the building should be sited so that these spaces can lay out relative to the school to preserve those safe zones for the kiddos, but to also have clear access and maintenance throughout the site. One of my favorite aspects of this project is the fact that we've been able to preserve, with the building in this location, we've been able to preserve this completely unrestricted zone in this area and all along the east side, where the kiddos can have uninterrupted access from the school to the outdoor spaces. That cannot often happen, so that's a real success of this project. So as we begin to dive a little more site-specific into the spaces that Jenny outlined, from a landscape architecture perspective, I sort of explain it. We have the architects dealing with the structure, we have the civil engineers working with the roadways and the stormwater, and we are sort of like the interconnected tissue that's making sure we bring it all together to get the program to work. And when thinking about how we're going to lay out these spaces, we're thinking about outdoor, obviously playground, active use, passive use, education, performance, dining, and then as Jenny outlined, we have playground for 3 through 5, we have K through 2, we have the Rise Play, we have the open field for more active use, and then the WOW Center, where we're envisioning it can be a space where kiddos can go if they want to just be a little more reflective or quiet. We can have a little, if you look at the image in the lower left, down here, where kids can get their hands dirty, or they can, we can get some naturalized boulders out there, bits and pieces to complement the spaces. So as we've outlined in this option, which may shift a bit, we have the WOW Center along Charles Street, which works nicely because our early grading studies for the topography, we're able to carve in a zone in this area. So the WOW Center will sit a little lower to create sort of a nestled zone with a densely planted evergreen area just for some safety and security. And then next to the WOW Center, we could have an open field. So we're picturing seating and viewing for the open field so that if there is community use on the weekends, there could be play in the open field, but then youngsters could be in the WOW Center or on the playground on either side with families interconnecting throughout the site. The arrival court, primarily hardscape. It'll be open because we do, for security emergency access reasons, we have to maintain perimeter access around this portion of the building, and we also want to have these open spaces so that we have ease of access for snow removal. On the north side, we have service, and toward the back, this is still a bit in flux. We were looking at having outdoor gathering adjacent to the cafeteria, and in the imagery you can see we're thinking of having some type of maybe stadium seating so the kids can go out, and it can either be a place where they can sit, they can eat their lunch, but a safe zone that would be fenced in all along Haverhill Street, an outdoor learning zone, and then the Rise Play zone adjacent to the classrooms, where we could have different types of inclusive play and age-appropriate uses. And then just close out my portion of the presentation. Again, character imagery of what we're starting to think relative to the design of the spaces and the types of elements that we could have to activate. Color is very important, but also simple forms, again, so that we can go back and make sure that these spaces are maintainable, because if we can't maintain them, it's not a good story. Where we do have these types of elements, these naturalized elements, these are actually concrete. So again, these aren't structures that will rot over time or splinter, but we've been working with a playground vendor who's just exceptional. We work closely with their team and the district when we get to that point of getting into the real detailed design to understand which elements will weather and activate the best. And then looking at active play zones, again, we're working on a project in Newton right now. It's the most inclusive playground that we've ever developed, and we're bringing that into our new school work as well. And with that, Jenny, I'll hand it over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade. I just have one more slide, which is talking about how the community will access the gym and cafeteria inside the building. So these are plans. On the left is the ground floor, on the right is the upper floor. So you can see on the right in this teal color, the gym is actually on the upper floor. One of the reasons that we did that, just going back to our planning, is it's quite a tight site by the time you subtract the area where the existing school will be in operation. We have like 2.4 acres to work with. So a real priority for getting this project to work was like getting a really efficient footprint. So putting the gym on the second floor was one of the moves that made that work. And also during the school day, it's primarily used by the kindergarten through 5th graders who are on the second and third floor. So that's really easily accessible for them. But for the public will come in here on the ground floor. Can you see my little arrow? Not very well. Through here on the ground floor and into like a generous lobby where will be kind of a big, I don't want to say a grand stair, but a big stair, a generous stair. And you just go up the stair and then you're right there to get into the gym. And the cafeteria is on the ground floor. And then all of the classrooms and academic spaces are separated in a separate wing. This red line is kind of the demising line between those publicly accessible areas and the academic areas. And there's just a double door that can be locked at night, so it's really easy to control access. That is all of our presentation. So I will, I think, leave it on this slide, which gives us lots of pictures to talk about. And I'm interested to hear from folks about what kinds of programs and elements are important to include on the site, or the qualities of those programs and elements.
Is it too early to ask a question of the landscape architecture about the butters, landscape buffers? Is it too early?
No, this is the perfect time to ask, especially since our landscape architect is here.
100% sure.
You just want to know what we're thinking about
There's currently
that space
some
between the buffer.
trees,
Mhm.
but what's the future? I assume there's going to be more than just what's there.
That is a very good question. So we're still in the very early planning, so we haven't gotten into specific plantings. Generally, as you can see on the plan, we're showing the perimeter trees, and then we have the parking lot trees to show that the intent is to definitely have the green coverage. But what we will do is, as the project progresses and as the program begins to settle, for instance, tonight, if we look at the softball field, those spaces may change a bit, but as the program sits, then we will go out and understand, we'll be working with the civil engineer to understand what the stormwater requirements are, because we have to make sure we have pre-runoff versus post-runoff calculations that we have to meet. So after all of the engineering is understood, then we come in and, working with any butters who are interested and the design team, we work at planting accordingly. We tend to prefer to do naturalized plantings, meaning we don't want to just put up a row of like arborvitae That just, to us, it doesn't bring natural interest or habitat of any way. And it doesn't allow for seasonal interest, but we like to do group plantings with a mix of evergreen and deciduous, lower canopy and overstory, so that we can get as much screening as possible. Of course, if we hear from an abutter that they're like, no, we love the view into the school, then we would work with them. But it really comes down, it becomes very individual conversations. And the earlier that we have those conversations, after we get into, you said the vote is in June. After we get past the vote, as soon as we know that the school is moving forward, that's when we want to start to have those conversations. And the earlier, the better.
Is there fencing still? Like, will there be fencing between the others?
That will be another, we're not there just yet, but that will be one of the conversations. We'll have to look at what is required per zoning. And then again, working with the butters. One of our projects with Jenny's team, another school locally or nearby, there was a lot of fencing and many conversations with the abutters. But again, the earlier the better.
And then on April Street, are you guys pushing the street out? I'm just curious, on April Street, are you pushing the street out, or is there still room for cars to park along April Street?
That is something we've been talking about, both approaches. The pro-con argument is that Haverhill Street is a busy street and it's not the safest for people to pull over and parallel park along Haverhill Street. That's the con. The pro is that it's convenient for people who are coming that way and going that way. So that's still an open question, and I think we'll continue to talk about that next week or at our next meeting on traffic. What are your thoughts?
I'm pro keeping it the way it is, because if you did allow families to park there,
Yeah.
I feel like if you pushed it out, then no one can get by, and people are walking or whatnot. It's
Like, you think people will still just pull over and park there anyway?
possible.
Yeah, that would be the worst.
So I like having an extra spot there.
Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you.
He always makes me sound
Just curious, the hours of construction time, is it 7 AM to 4 or 5 or whatever? And does that mean stop with a noise, set up at 6?
Do you, please?
This is coming from the meeting last night that the school committee had about drilling wells and the whole conversation about the 2 years of construction.
So, that's a great question. We don't have a GC on board just yet, but once we do it, typically, we do see on average like 7 to 5, sometimes maybe earlier than 5, depending on the schedule. There will be likely some like Saturdays as needed, but we will obviously coordinate, and we do have an on-site representative on our team that will be there as a daily representative, and it's someone that will work on schedule. But that's typically an average for most construction projects.
So that includes setup, 7 AM.
Yes. But again, once we get GC on board, we're just not quite there yet. That's typically what we experience.
We're following all town ordinances.
Well, when they replaced the roof, they said 7 AM, but then they started setting up at 6 AM. And it was bad. And then they said, but yeah, we're not starting work till 7. So, this is gonna be a couple of years, and we understand it's gonna be loud, we get it. But I think 7 AM is reasonable and not encroachable before that
You
time.
don't want the first meal hitting at 7 AM. You want-
Or even all the equipment being moved, and it's the setup is just as disruptive as the actual work. So that's just something to keep in mind. Thank you.
100% be a fence on Haverhill Street, because we have a playground with small children on that side. What the quality and character of that fence will be, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bring it up, obviously there would be a fence, you could do this.
Yeah.
My comment is specifically about the quality and character of the fence, and it should be a solid fence, it should not be chain link. We're gonna spend tens of millions of dollars. That would be very foolish, I just wanna put that out there. For anyone who lives there, has been vegetable, just walk along that stretch road. It would be insane to me, not to spend money, whatever it is, 20 grand or something, I don't know. With respect to the, and I'm sure I would be really shocked if there's anyone that disagrees with that. And if I would love to talk to them if they do. With respect to Charles Street, which is my primary concern, because I live directly across from the school, could you talk just a little bit about, I'm a little concerned about the placement of some of the plantings. Meaning I want to make sure that they don't get cut or scaled back. Just because I think you can see it here, but on the prior, yeah, thank you. So the little section there, are you planning, there's something there now, are you planning to like clear cut what's there, or are you going to try and keep what's there and then kind of augment?
You're talking about this kind of forested section in the corner?
So we will, where possible, we try to preserve as many trees as possible. Oftentimes I have been referred to as a tree hugger, and it's true. But what will happen is, given the location of the new entry drive, and because there is a topography change there will be some off-grading that will need to happen to get a safe access drive. Wherever the existing root zone of the tree is affected, we will have to evaluate, will it impact the structure of the tree to the point where it creates a hazard? If that is the case, we'll have to remove it. But if we're going to remove it, we're going to have to replace it. Believe me, I am the one beating the drum about trees, tree preservation where possible, but where it makes sense. I do end up removing more trees than people would expect, just because the impact of construction, really, we don't want to have trees falling on anyone after, the 2 to 5 years after. But the tree replacement is really important. And also for shade. And that's another thing that I'm going to say early on as well, as we go through pricing and cost exercises, just getting rid of a tree because it'll save it. We need shade as well. So having the buffer for the abutters so that we have the visual, and it's like an emotional screen as well. Being able to maintain some of that privacy, we really understand the importance of that.
Yeah, it's important to me. I appreciate those comments just because my house is right there. It's directly across from a parking lot that's being quadrupled in size. I mean, it's a massive increase in the number of cars and the amount of traffic that we're going to see. So I appreciate there is some trees there now. One other thing too, and I'm asking for special dispensation here, is just dangerous for my family. The fact I really like where you have the entry and exit point placement. If you actually look at it today, there's only one entry exit point, and it's directly across from the driveway. Which is super, super dangerous. So I appreciate that you have, I think, the entry point before Boswell, or right around there, and then the exit point is a little bit after, which is awesome. So thank you. I'll hand the mic back. I do have to make one side comment. I can't help myself, I'm sorry. I find it really interesting that we're mentoring town ordinances about sound when there's really no restrictions on the gun range. Just unrelated to this, but they can fire guns at 8:30 at night, and no one in the town seems to care except me. So, thank you.
Could you flip back to where the Wow Center was in the other?
This one or this one?
When you had these,
You already said it.
Yoda, the sophomore.
Oh, this one.
Yeah. All right. I'm looking for a different perspective because I work at Killam, but just for supervision of the Wow Center on the outside. two exits at Killam that father end, they
Yeah.
can't turn left.
But they can't take it,
But I don't think you lived here when they could turn left. It was much worse.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's right turn only at the exit.
Denise, what do you think about that placement of the WOW Center, like
I think it's better.
before and after?
I think it's better where the 3 to 5
Yeah.
round is.
Because then it's easier to supervise during
Yeah, it's.
playtime,
you know,
yeah,
for
recess.
supervision, if you have kids in either grade level that want to go into a quiet place, they can. But having it across from the field would be
More
more
challenging.
challenging.
Yeah.
Did we talk about putting the WOW Center south of the Rise Play area?
Like in here.
Yeah.
We have not talked about that so far.
We did in my end.
Your head in reality, you're always the same thing. Speaking of WOW Center, I like where we're going and keep it closer to the building, and maybe Carla's idea is a good idea. But we thought about flipping the soccer field this way. Would it fit? And then put the WOW Center a little bit next to the K through 12, just before the soccer field. The soccer field becomes parallel to Charles. Is that possible?
Oh, if it's parallel to Charles?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it doesn't fit. It, like putting it at an angle makes it,
Parking gets into the parking
yeah, it's
lot?
into the parking, yeah. It's a tight squeeze as it is. I'm sure we've looked at it, like, at first I thought you were saying like turn it 90 degrees from where it is. It's possible.
We did look at that. And then it.
It makes the playgrounds kind of long and skinny, yeah.
This becomes soccer, and then it's play, wow.
Mhm.
Maybe we should put in our schedule when, after they vote, when landscaping comes on, to
Mhm.
meet with the abutters on that piece of it.
Good idea.
I think that's a fantastic idea. And again, the earlier we can do that, the better, because it is not lost on us. Like hearing you, I totally get it. I've seen it so many times. You know, I have family and friends. We've all gone through it. It's an upheaval, and just knowing that you're heard and that we're gonna do the best we can while working early on with civil, because so many big movements are going to be happening early on. But if we can have your goals in mind, I would love the opportunity to come out and stand at your property, if that isn't too intrusive, with you to understand what are your views and what are your concerns. And then if that's something that we can prioritize, it'll be a win for everyone. The worst case scenarios are it didn't come up, or no one thought about it, no one attended the meetings, they just ignored it until construction happened, and then everyone was ready to go, and they're like, what do you know? So this is a very important conversation.
And that probably has to happen with abutters at different phases too, so abutters needs to become at different phases so we can try and integrate that.
How are you reaching out to voters? Are you going to send them a letter and say, or is it up to them to figure out when these meetings are? I'm a voter, so I'm proactively coming to these meetings, but I don't know if everyone on the street is.
So we have I'll let you speak about the reverse calls.
That's loud, sorry about that. We have a reverse 911 group for the geofence around that whole neighborhood. I don't think we sent out a call for the last few community meetings, but yeah, okay, so you got that one, so, yeah. So we can do that, we haven't been doing that, we do notifications of community meetings through the website, through superintendent newsletters, principal newsletters, town manager minute, Facebook, et cetera. So,
When I
yeah.
first moved here, they added the pause, where the emergency
sense, and I'm just thinking through this now, but at the appropriate time, which I think is after the vote, when we are kind of at a place in the design process to dig into that level of detail, I think we should send a letter out to each of the abutters and invite them to engage with us, and perhaps we can go and visit each abutter, those that are open to having us visit their properties, and at least invite the opportunity to communicate with the design team in whatever way it works for each abutter.
The abutters and the abutters to the abutters, because it's a huge building. Yeah.
For a mailer?
For whatever communication is happening to the abutters, it should go one more out.
Yeah, so
The abutters to the abutters.
we'll do another call, we'll do that
I
again.
believe
That's,
like a zoning variance, they do that.
yeah, no, they do that, that's the whole thing, yeah, that's the whole thing. So we will send out the code red calls and the reverse 911 calls. And those are geofenced in the whole area, so it's not just the direct abutters, it's like the region. I think there's so many feet kind of perimeter that's drawn around the area.
Yeah,
so
and
it's-
this project will also go before the planning board. We're not there yet. That'll also happen after the vote during that phase. So that'll be, along with that process, as you know, there is a mandatory communication to abutters. So that will happen as well.
And it's the abutters too, so yeah.
I also suggest mailing them, because I was just saying, like, you don't have a whole folder anymore, you don't check in person. Yeah, I can look into that. You know,
It's not under your cell phone.
well,
Yeah, you get a text message.
let's see, now I have to do it. I didn't even think of that.
Yeah, I understand. We can help you with that, perhaps.
Will the plans be put on that website? Like I went through the site. This isn't anywhere on the site. There's like a picture, but the actual, you have to, it's like the background. These plans are posted, you can post them.
The packets.
Yeah, we-
This picture.
Yeah, these are the packets.
We usually,
Oh, it's embedded in it. Okay.
yeah, I believe we post the presentations from each community meeting after like in the week following each community meeting.
Thank you.
What I'm hearing is they would benefit from, once they're decided on like the site plan, so we'll just see that too.
Yeah, just put a picture of it. So,
Yeah, like on the front page or something.
This is what it's gonna look like.
I think that's a good suggestion.
And we'll get on that abutters list too. I know Jimmy's had started and we talked in our communications meetings about how do you reach people who, older folks who may not be on social media or at all. And we did talk about mailings and stuff, putting things in the newsletter. And actually, a lot of this information goes out in Pleasant Streets, just through the senior center, but there are a lot of seniors who are not part of that group too. So any suggestions like this, we have a communications working group that meets every 2 weeks.
What happens if the town votes against it?
We tried for a long time, and if the town votes against it, then, we can ask the MSBA for another vote within a very short period of time. If that fails, then we're out of the process.
So renovate, I guess I'm asking, like, would there be some smaller step that, like, right now or something? Well, agreed, that's just something else.
We've done those options, the MSBA requires a renovation option, a renovation,
Yep.
an addition option, and then new options. And the pricing for like a renovation addition is higher than the new
Oh, no,
option.
I've read everything, so I'm hearing that it's done.
Well, because the town would have to do something,
Yeah.
that's completely on our own dime. We would use MSBA funding unless we try to get into the process again, which is really tough to get.
What are we gonna do?
Okay. Unless there are any more questions, we can close the meeting and welcome you all to stick around and chat.
Traffic one?
November 4th.
November 4th.
Yeah. Jim Sullivan would be the person to speak to that.
I know we need more fields all over the place. Please keep us field in there as well. And I know, I don't know if this is an option or not, but looking at a field that size with the amount of kids that are going to be there, the weekend play that's going to happen there, the field is going to be able to and our trade is going to turn into basketball. I've seen it happen in other towns as well before. The kids are up there in recess and turn into basketball. The games rocks, rains, every single year we replace it. And turf is a great option. Gets you out there earlier, you can be out there on tough weather, and I think if you were to have turf, I'm looking at the softball field where it is right now, you can put a softball field turf right on that little rectangle right there as well, where it's sun and it's brown, so you wouldn't be taking away. I'd be a little nervous if we were to put a softball field over there, and then we decided to make that turf, it'd be a weird transition. I think you could overlay that U10 softball field on that turf field and have it sun. It's turf, it's just brown. A lot of other communities are doing it as well. And then you can keep the law center over there. And the law center is important. Not every kid wants to play sports. So I mean, it's another option. And the turf is good, it's bad, and I think there's more good. I'd love to see turf there. I think it's easy to maintain as well. We don't have any turf fields outside of the high school park right now. And those are all heavily used by high school teams. And our kids are getting pushed to practice later at night, field hockey, there's plenty on grass. If you ever watch field hockey on grass, it's not fun. Ball is not good. So it will allow a lot more options for the youth programs to get on a nice field earlier, so you don't have 6, 7-year-olds out at 8 o'clock at night. So I do like the turf idea. I know Tom kind of briefly spoke about it, so
The field is awful now.
it is a
So no,
little bit.
it's an education. Is that embedded in the existing plan or the turf field or not?
And we're just kind of open up the discussion now. I know we have youth sports that would get behind that as well too. That field is probably the most underutilized field probably in the town. How do you look it, but it's kind of a last resort.
Probably why that is very unpleasant.
I agree.
Would that be just Saturdays or Saturdays and Sundays?
So it would fall under the kind of the same field schedule, so it would be Saturdays and Sundays. If it is a nicer field, it's probably going to get more use as well, so Sundays would be a 12 o'clock start. We can start before 12 o'clock. There's some special permissions that can get granted. It's twice per sports season that they can request an early start, but typically we don't start until we're not allowed to start until 12 on Sundays, and then it's an 8 o'clock start on Saturdays.
Don't forget practices.
And weekdays, yeah, typically we're practicing at 5:30. There's an after school program as well, but mostly it's 5:30 to about till dusk.
So you're just until 8 o'clock, so you're measuring highlights?
No, it starts till 9 o'clock sometimes in the early summer. Yeah, no lights. No lights, no good ball courts.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks, Jim.
Any other questions?
Will T-ball be going somewhere else?
This would be an ideal spot for T-ball. If we were to, even if it was that little spot right there, like we said, there's no left field line. The kids aren't really big ball past the dirt. So we probably still have it over in this area. Would you like it to stay there?
Yeah.
I think it would be nice.
Yeah, I don't want to get rid of it. I mean, if we were to lose a field, softball and baseball, they do have a little bit more, but I don't want to take away from a lack of field space as it is right now. I did speak with both organizations, Little League and softball, does utilize this. And they said they can make do for the 2 years that it may be offline, but they do use this as a kind of backup to a backup, but it's great for the younger kids with T-ball. They don't need a perfect timing, but I do like the turf option with the T-ball on the ball, field after every shot. So you can buy it every time a child hits the ball.
Will there be a basketball hoop anywhere?
That's a good question. I think every elementary school should have a basketball hoop. I think that's space to play around. Your neighbor, though, I know. You want your basketball? Oh, I say too much.
Do you want to answer that?
It's gonna be over there in the afternoon.
But I agree, I think basketball, and I would recommend the more basketball hoops. I would recommend the 10-foot. I know there are better adjustable ones right now.
They have to now, which is why I don't know that's all.
Yeah, Josh Lee, and get a bunch of 12-foot. Between 12 feet, and call over there, 10-foot, and 7-foot. But yeah, I'd love to see a basketball hoop somewhere as well.
Basketball would be, again, elementary school, you always want to see one. We could take a look at perhaps a half court, but right now, full court will not fit on the site, unfortunately. We have at other schools done is it drop shot? It's not the same, right? But that's something that's where we're gonna have to start these conversations. Is it the t-ball? Is it the soccer? Is it basketball? Unfortunately, all three can't fit. But if there's any feedback specifically, hearing that the t-ball is welcome is super helpful. But that was the one program element on our checklist. It's like, oh, where are we going to put basketball? Perhaps we could look at a half court.
It's not, I would never put soccer on there if I had t-ball there. There's too many balls back and forth, so I think you should make a softball field on top of, say, dirt fields, and then you have a half court basketball court.
Oh, you're saying overlay them because you would never play softball and soccer at the same time with them on top of each other? Okay.
Excited. Soccer's a lot more faster. They'll see their buddies running around and they just feel absolutely chaos.
That's good to hear. Not everybody understands that, and it creates collision courses, and yeah. So
that's a good suggestion we could look at, right? Overlaying softball and soccer.
So it's a single use at a single time.
Yes. I mean, you probably have two soccer teams on there.
But that only works if it's turf, right? Because,
I mean, it could work if it was.
yeah.
It would happen.
I know with elementary schools, you probably see this when we get a little bit of rain, there's mud and rocks come up, the drainage becomes an issue, kids are having with their shoes, so then they're digging holes in that field and catching them all up. And then the irrigation is all hit with this turf, and usually it's on the morning of the school morning, kids go out there early. What is it? Was that turf field? Yeah, I mean, there's different options, so I know everyone's worried about the pulverized rubber that's going into that. I know Winchester Road prior, they just put in the wooden fiber that they do now that drops in there. It's kind of tumbles, rolls, and sponges, and they put that in there as well. It's very soft as well, and pretty sound too. So I know like the gym right now, the playground's got that higher mulch, which I can't stand. It wouldn't be something like that, so we had to dissolve on something as well.
Would you do any type of projection to show over a 20-year period or a 10-year period what the average maintenance irrigation costs of the grass field?
Yeah,
Just to try to offset to show people that, hey, like, yes, it's a bigger number of months, but over a longer period of time, everything's potentially cheaper or clearly more effective than beneficial. Just to show that.
Yeah, and there's different numbers too. We also charge booking on the field, and we charge grass rate, and we also charge the turf rate. We charge more as well, so it does in return bring more money to our field that we have as well. Yeah, we can certainly look at that and figure out. It's not a huge field, so I mean, $1 million, I think right now is the number we're replacing. We can do the same turf field without putting an overlay there. But I think it would be probably closer to 2.5. I remember that. Who knows what it's going to be in 3 years.
I'd just like to add for the abutters that we also have our tree board and director of parks for questions. He's also an evangelist for trees.
This would
In
also,
case we have questions for Mike.
it would take less stress off his staff with cutting into the field. And the issue, I don't want to speak to you, is getting to these fields during the school time. Like right now, it's hard for them to have these fields because there's recess going on throughout the day. Their guys are from 7 to 3 o'clock, so it's really hard to find a time to get out there with the gym teachers setting up, having homes out there, and these guys trying to get around as well too. So, you want to say anything, Mike?
So the turf fields and stuff like that are a lot easier for us to go and maintain. Just you wouldn't pick up the leaves and stuff like that around it. It's a lot easier because you can get people on there in the backpack loaders and stuff like that. Obviously, you can't put heavy equipment on there, but
Yeah. Good point, Jim. We did include in the program a dedicated rec department storage, but I think we put it up in the gym. Yeah. Does it?
I prefer it to be outside. I know the teachers have lack of space, and like I said that in the last.
Yeah.
I don't want to take anything away from the gym teachers.
No, it's already your space. We just want to put it in the right spot.
That's a little indoor play. But if there's something outside, something that kind of fits the landscape, I don't want to do something cheap, like a nice looking shed, but it has a little garage door. But if it was a dedicated spot, it would get utilized by not only the school, but as well as the youth organizations that are paying a pretty decent price to use these fields as well.
Okay.
It's a long walk from the building. Yeah. That would be, yeah, I wouldn't want them going in the middle, I wouldn't want, and Tom probably doesn't want all these many folks going in the building as well too, so I mean, having something like yours would be crucial. The bathroom, they don't want to do that.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Really appreciate your input.
Thank you.
That was gonna be a little-